Welcome to the Safe Business Agility Podcast. This is the place to get advice, stories, perspectives, and updates about safe and related topics to help you work differently and build the future. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Today's guest is Phil Reynolds, CEO and co-founder of DevStride. Join me as Phil and I talk a little bit about his history founding and exiting a company serving insurance, and his history writing children's songs. Phil's a great guy. DevStride is a really interesting company. We hope you check him out. Enjoy this one with Phil Reynolds. Phil, welcome to Prague.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So where did you come from? Where is DevStride? Well, I don't want to say based because everything's based everywhere right now. So where did you come from?
Yes. So personally, I'm from Missouri, and I previously ran a large insurance software company there. Got engaged with Scaled Agile at that point, and have stayed there. And now I'm working with DevStride. Our team is distributed globally. We're all over the place.
Everybody is, right?
Right. Exactly.
So the real question is: are you in St. Louis, Branson, or Waterfowl, Missouri?
So we're in Kansas City.
Okay.
Which frequently trips people up. Every time someone shows up for a concert, they're always like, "We love you, Kansas," and then everybody boos.
They're like, "That's not us. That's the other side of the river."
Yeah, right. We're not in Kansas.
Well, cool. So, Phil, top level, can you just give us an idea of what DevStride is and kind of what your goals are with that solution?
Yeah, so DevStride is designed to provide portfolio level management for teams trying to execute diligently across complex work streams. And what that really translates to is a suite of a lot of little workflows that together help a team that's trying to manage, especially interdependent teams and interdependent, if we're trying to execute on something and I have to go to services, and they have to coordinate with product, and they have to coordinate with DevOps. We found that process can be somewhat painful, and we're trying to build tooling that makes that simpler, more direct, easier to execute.
Maybe even fun.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that's the goal, right? Because otherwise, what are we doing? So, Phil, did you grow up in Missouri, or is that just where you're from now?
Yeah, I was born and raised. Spent my life in Missouri. It's nice if you run a software company. Being in the middle, number one, has some cost advantages. Also, you have equal access to the coasts.
Sure.
And so I can hop over to, the Silicon Valley for a quick board meeting, fly back to Kansas City the same day, and do the same thing to New York and in and out. And so it's turned out to be a great place to be.
I mean, so I guess you're conveniently located close to not really either coast. So you're equal distances from both coasts.
Yeah, yes, I'm as far from the water as possible.
Landlocked in the center. Well, cool. So how did a guy growing up in Missouri get to where you're at today? So did you grow up in rural Missouri? What was your upbringing like, and how the heck did you become an engineer and platform architect, owner, tech nerd?
Yeah, so it's a long and winding story. I'll save you from most of the boring details. I actually came up doing music. I was a creative type, and got a degree in college in digital media production, which interestingly enough had an overlap into 3D modeling, and got into programming really just because I enjoyed doing creation, and a lot of the creative tools as I was coming up were becoming more digital. So I learned to program that way. And when I got out of school, I was a songwriter. Weird little fact about me, I was the most published children's music songwriter in North America in 2003, 2004.
Isn't that Blue's Clues era?
It was Blue's Clues era, yeah.
Did you make it on
Veggie
Blues?
Tales. And
Nice.
So, yeah, all kinds of stuff. So I was doing that for a while. It turns out that doesn't pay the bills as well as software CEO. And so I needed to do something else, and really just started working on following projects and things I was asked to do that were at first very creative, and then they slowly became more technical. And those technical projects led to more and more technical projects. which then led me into, at the time, property casualty insurance software.
Super exciting.
Yeah, it was really, really great. It was very organic, sort of just following the next opportunity.
So what was that? What did that look like? Were you rating claims? Were you evaluating claim validity? What sort of work did your platform accomplish?
Yeah, so the very first generation was a quoting system for agents that ran over the web back in 2004. And that was new at the time. And we offered that software to small mutual insurance companies. That went well. And several years later, a group of those asked us if we would replace their core administration platform. And so we built that, and it took many, many years and, $1 zillion. And we became a leader in that space of property casualty insurance administration software. And over the course of about a 15-year window, we built an end-to-end solution that did everything from quoting to issuance, underwriting, claims management, statutory accounting, finance, billing,
all the
things. As a result of that, we needed better processes to manage our own software team and to manage implementations for customers. And that's how I ended up being exposed to Scaled Agile. And so we adopted Scaled Agile back in about 2015.
And this was to build your own solution, right?
To build our own solution, we just needed processes internally.
Sure.
So that was very hard. And Scaled Agile was a fantastic solution. It worked really well. We did it for a lot of years. And through that, I was able to meet, we actually did, Icon came in and did our training. And one of the early authors of SAFE, a gentleman, Colin O'Neill, ran that. He and I are still friends. And it was really a rewarding experience. I enjoyed the framework, had some struggles with some of the software tools. And some of the things that I needed the software tools to do, they didn't do the way that I needed. And so really got into the business of trying to fix that and patch some of those problems and do some enablement. And that led to such a passion that I ended up leaving the insurance software company and starting a company just doing that.
Now, when you say you left, I'm sure it was an exit, and I'm sure you were okay.
Yes,
you didn't just leave it in the ditch.
No. Yes. I left with a very healthy wind at my back, a parachute that would last for a very long time.
Well, that's good. Congratulations for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So I got to ask too, because when I picture, kind of this journey for you from, being creative, being a musician, being an author of, let's face it, kids' music is fun. It's upbeat. There's a lot of energy there. How much of that energy were you able to carry into an insurance rating solution and then now into DevStride? You mentioned it, right? Some of the early solutions in this space were very far from elegant, and they were very far from user-friendly.
Yep.
So have you been able to bring some of, that creative juice, some of that excitement, some of that energy into your solutions? Can we see that part of your personality in DevStride and in your previous products?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely with a background in sort of design and creative, I tend to lead with a lot of user experience. And so as opposed to designing the database first, I'll design workflows and screens with customers and really dial those things in. And then we'll work our way into a data design on the backside. And so I think that, the things that we build are really heavily focused on what are the users trying to accomplish and how do I help them go from point A to point B in the most efficient, most enjoyable, least friction way possible. And then the energy thing is just a personality trait. I can't help it. And part of why I'm a second-time founder is I have a tendency to walk into a room, say words, and then a lot of people are like, yeah, let's do that. And so I end up doing that a lot.
I can recognize that also in myself.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's funny. A lot of your story is similar to mine, except I wasn't creative. I was a dirt bike kid.
Oh, nice.
So I rode a lot of dirt bikes. I did silly dirt bike stuff, and I got in trouble. And my way out of trouble was to build a dirt bike blog for my school principal to show him that, hey, I can focus, I can do stuff. Here's my penance. And that led into one of the very first platforms for selling cars on the internet. Around the same time that you started yours, it was like a precursor to cars.com. It was a prem solution. I helped dealers get their inventory on the interwebs.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
And that's a lot of very much going a lot of that's hand-to-hand combat with sales. You're going into dealerships, you're talking about what they need. The product's evolving as you're visiting with the customer. And I love that process.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it all comes down to people, right? Everything we do, no matter if it's software, I think Chris was mentioning that, or Andy this morning, right? It comes down to people, their capacity for change, and their appetite to basically buy you. I mean, because it's your energy, right. It's your personality, and your ability to build trust with the people.
Oh, so, absolutely. I believe all day long that customers invest in people, not products.
100%.
Yeah.
Unless you're working with corporate procurement, and then that's a whole different beast.
Yeah, and an interesting thing that a place where I feel like DevStride is looking to fill a gap in the scaled Agile community that's different than a lot of the other software vendors here. If you walk in, we would never even begin to think about trying to do something like competing with a company like Atlassian. Atlassian is already big. Geared. Yeah, Atlassian is geared to deal with large enterprise organizations. They do it very well. Where we see more opportunity is when you are a smaller shop and you have some specific gap in your process in a place where there's just fundamentally missing the ability to connect some piece of data to some other piece of data, or some workflow to some other workflow. That's where we really want to step in, because we can be very hands-on in that moment, and we can, and sometimes we build purely bespoke solutions, and then you repeat that bespoke solution 2 or 3 times, and you realize, oh, there's a product in here, and you can productize that.
Well, let's dive into that. I mean, I'm curious to hear the origin story of DevStride. I mean, how, you mentioned that your interactions with Scaled Agile and understanding that way of working kind of led to an epiphany that there's got to be a better way to manage this work. So how did you go from those early ideas to a product on the shelf ready to go, or in the cloud?
Yeah, sure. So in the cloud. And it was, so I have a very personal story around all of this. We were good at SAFe at my last company, Brightcore, and we implemented it well. And we had some of the best coaches come in and spend time with us. And I even made some suggestions in SAFe. I think it was 4.0. And so it was very engaged. We had a 16-year run in our enterprise software company with 0 customer churn. 16 years, 0 customer churn.
That's
126% year-over-year net revenue retention from our customers. It was great. And we whiffed one in my last year. And that was a lot of what drove me. I had an exit already. I was still running the company. And then we missed an implementation. And it was the first time ever we had churned a customer. And the reason we churned the customer was that we needed a view into the project that was both a product view and also a service delivery view. And those two views were two different dimensions on the same same body of work. So you show the customer, here's what I'm doing for you across 43 product teams. Also, product team, here's what you're doing for 12 implementing customers. And that tool set just didn't really exist well. And so a lot of what got us here was we started out trying to solve that problem. How do you, as a product company, represent what you are doing, slice and dice it for a particular enterprise customer, and show them, oh, here's the work we're doing for you, and give them a clear, what looks like an Agile release train for them,
right,
while your actual Agile release trains are probably running more aligned to product and enterprise goals inside the product company.
So it sounds like it was definitely an implementation failure, but it was more along the lines of, we can't clearly show you what we're doing for you. Is that kind of...
Yeah, even worse. So, if you go to a tool like Atlassian with Jira, which actually we were using at the time, we'd used Rally before that. So I've been a Broadcom person, I've been an Atlassian person. You get beautiful reports in those systems. If everything aligns up to one pyramid, right? If everything rolls neatly up. The problem is if you have, as we did, a policies team and a billing team and a compliance team, all these different teams, then all these different product teams have different items in the roadmap that are part of ultimately a big, 36-month implementation for an enterprise customer. There was no, and to the best of my knowledge, other than us, there is no tool currently that neatly, succinctly turns that into its own view of a project that runs parallel, left to right across the chain. And so that's really what we ran into, that exact problem. started us down this road.
Okay.
And then once we started down this road and started helping people with that problem and saying, hey, we can help your service delivery team connect to your product team and show a view to your customers, then we started seeing opportunities for all sorts of other tools that could sort of be added on to that and built into that. And so that's turned into some other products that exist in our ecosystem.
So what was the kind of the vision statement that you went to market with in your pitch deck? I mean, how did you position this? And is that still kind of the case today?
Yeah, very much. So we originally started out with our original theme was multi-dimensional insights for complex projects. That was a bit of a mouthful for people.
Yeah.
And so instead, we ended up sort of rebranding that as enabling service delivery within product teams.
Clean and simple.
Yeah, much cleaner.
So when you started down this path of building the platform, is it something that you began on your own in your garage, just kind of churning? Did you go to get investment and then build a team? So how did you get to your beta?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting path there. So number one, I had an advantage. Like you, I had successfully exited a company before. So I had resources.
Sure.
And among the resources, in addition to capital, I had access to, about 1,000 engineers that had worked for me over the years before. And I was able to handpick the two best of those engineers to join into the founder group. And then my wife was our CMO here, was our CMO.
I saw her. She was just coming around taking pictures.
Yeah. And she was our CMO at Brightcore as well. So we do things together. We bankrolled the first year and some change of operations at DevStride in order to get to what is effectively an early POC.
Okay.
And so we did that with the two co-founders, just the four of us. We made it all the way to where we had a functioning product and turned our very first customer on. And at that point, we went out and raised money. In my last company, I generated a 26x return for all of my seed stage investors.
Sure.
So this time when I went to market and said, hey, I want to raise a seed round of capital, that was easier.
Yeah, you had a track record. It was okay.
Exactly. Yeah, professional team and a track record we knew we were doing. And so, and so what's been really interesting is, even though I've done this before, and even though I have a lot of expertise in the scaled agile and the project delivery domain, there are still a bunch of surprises that you just uncover as you move into this market. And the lesson continues to be reinforced to me over and over again that you don't know what you don't know. And the best way to learn things is just to talk to customers.
Yeah.
Just relentlessly keep asking the customers, what do you need? What's working? What's not? Help them measure. Help them know what they don't know, and then go push on that and say, you need a solution to that problem right there.
Sure. And together break a few things along the way.
Oh, most of the things.
Break forward, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of talk through the solution and what it looks like today. I mean, what are the different problems that DevStride aims to solve? What's on the roadmap for the future?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of fundamental things that make it unique. So if you look at Monday's here right now, and Monday has a really nice and elegant solution for having multiple Kanban boards. They're based around Kanban boards, and you can nest Kanban boards into folders, and that's a way of organizing work. The challenge that we ran into with that was that you cannot then turn around and flip that work into some other hierarchy, some other tree that someone else wants to see. And so the way that we've designed DevStride, we have the idea of work streams that are a hierarchical view. It's a tree. It's a big map of all the work that you do from a strategic standpoint. Then we have a folder system to boards that can be synchronized to Monday, synchronized to Jira, and bring those things in. And you're able to see, okay, I have this one view for this one stakeholder. That's how I've nested my boards. This is typically your operations view for your product team. And then there's this other view, this work stream map, that I can show to a strategic stakeholder like a customer. So that's one of the ways that the tool is very different. Once we did that, we enabled that, then we went through and we built out Gantt charts. And what makes DevStride's Gantt charts so powerful is that it's able to pull work into a Gantt chart from any board, from any work stream, from any team, from any product, and show those dependencies and automate those dependencies so that we're knitting together work from all over the portfolio and it can all sort of flow. And then from there, we went in and realized that there was a need for much better collaboration tooling for people as they're working across, interior stakeholders or internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. And so we built an entire platform around collaboration spaces, collaboration rooms, sharing, targeted dashboards and things like that. And so really the suite of solutions that we offer have really evolved purely from solving the next problem and then understanding what the next most important problem was and then building a solution to that as well.
So is it fair to say that part of the solution is kind of marrying up kind of that value stream context with the specific work being done within that value stream?
Absolutely. So we started out, we have the advantage of being a very new system compared to some of these others. We started out with the idea of value streams. So value streams were the first thing we built, was building this, like, what are my value streams and how do they map and how do I measure them? And then from there, we then sort of backed our way into some of the more blocking and tackling. And then our goal is not to come in and replace all the existing tools. That's very difficult for a large enterprise to come in and replace all the tools. Our goal is to provide a way to stitch some of those tools together and provide views and collaboration and reporting and those sorts of things that enable me to see what's going on across a very otherwise fragmented and diverse ecosystem.
So with that work, you mentioned a lot of the interconnectivity to some of the other platforms. Is that something that updates on a job type schedule? Is it real time? How in sync are those solutions?
Yeah, so there's two different ways that we synchronize with other platforms. The first is with an initial data import.
Right.
And so what's great is at the phase we are at in just the arc of technical history, there are vendors that all they do is data import from tools like Jira and Monday, and so
like ETLs, staging tables, things like that.
Exactly, the standard ETL tools. So we can do a big bulk import to start a synchronization at a point in time. From there, then you move into transaction-based synchronization, which in our particular case we use Tray.io. Tray.io is a vendor that's out there. Shout out to Tray, who does a great job at building hooks into all the APIs of various vendors out there, and then provides some rule synchronization that says, when this happens in this system, fire this event in this other system. And there's other Zapier is another one that does something very similar. But with that tooling, then you're able to both do a big bulk import of how much data do you want to bring in initially to a tool like ours, and then what data do you want to sync into a tool like ours. And then there's another angle that actually our customers are starting to utilize that we find somewhat surprising. One of the things that we've learned is that Jira specifically is a tool that's really readily embraced by development teams.
Sure.
So your engineering, Jira is typically where you live. A lot of companies who are trying to, with the release of 6.0 is one of the features here, and a major emphasis in a lot of companies is, how do I make the rest of my company more agile?
Right.
And one of the things that we found is that a tool like Jira doesn't land well in HR and finance and admin. There's all these other places. And so slowly over time, our own tool has incorporated more and more and more direct work management, because we found that the workflows we've built work really well for other areas of the organization where again, not trying to compete with Jira, but trying to offer workflows that then synchronize. And then as long as your reporting is coming out of our tool, then all the engineering work is happening. Everything that's happening in your code versioning system like GitHub and all, we've integrated all those things, is all synchronizing. And then there's also a place for these non-technical users to work as well. And then that provides ultimately for your executive stakeholders a view on everything that's going on. I can see it all in one place.
Sure. That's a really good call out, right? I mean, I've done a lot of work in launching business teams and helping business teams. I would say their number one issue is they don't understand the volume of work in flight. So our first goal is, let's visualize all this stuff.
Right.
And then if you do that in a Jira, they're like, what are all of these things? Like, what is this GitHub thing that I need to connect to or not connect to? Like, what is this? And, they see those things and they feel those things. And then as a result, they just stop doing those things because it's intimidating. So If I'm understanding this correct, so DevStride can help, like, let's pick on an HR or a marketing. So you can articulate that operational process, right? You can map that value stream, and then you can start associating the work that's in progress with the different components of that value stream to understand. I mean, again, you're not necessarily evolving a product. Your goal is to, and not to say that you wouldn't use your solution to evolve a product, because you absolutely would. But thinking of an operational piece, we can start really understanding how our business works, what work we're doing to impact the different components of that business. And we get that dashboard level view to say, this is all the stuff we're doing. This is where it touches. And then you can also start thinking about, how do we evolve this operation to make it more efficient based on what we're seeing, and how may we evolve that value stream based on what we're seeing in the tool.
That's exactly right. And I'll give you a great specific example. We obviously use our own tool to manage our own company.
We do too.
Yes, exactly. Right. So one of the things that we do is we manage, of course, like finance and HR and those functions in our company through our own tool. I manage and I have a dashboard set up so I can see cycle time for HR. And most HR people are not used to being measured in terms of cycle time. And I care very much. Like when someone onboards, what is the cycle time for them to onboard, reach from that point in time to where they are doing their first task in whatever their functional area of the company is.
And I'm sure you also measure things like time to hire, all sorts of different metrics.
Exactly. And the way the system is set up, the way our system is set up, it's very flexible in how you configure, fields and workflows and things like that. So that really there's almost no business process you could not model and then measure. And so obviously another piece I haven't touched on yet is that we've spent a lot of time building a real-time analysis tool that lets you view things like cycle time and lead time and what are the blockers, what is my work in progress, all those sorts of things are just baked into the system. And as long as you're managing a work stream where a work stream is at least synchronizing through our system, we can just give you that report.
Are you able to also measure things like percent complete and accurate in that how many times once a task is moved forward, it comes back, measure quality?
Absolutely. Like yeah. We definitely do that. And we actually have one of the other things that we do that I think is kind of interesting is we have a report in our system that's called the completed report. And it simply shows you how much of a body of work is completed. What's I think really novel, and I get a lot of aha moments in sales meetings with this, is that if you think about how we synchronize the whole portfolio, I've got all the pieces. You can then go in very easily and say, show me, for example, all of the interrupts everywhere in the system, right? Not just engineering team A or whatever over here, everywhere in my entire company. Show me all interrupts and show me whether or not those are trending longer or shorter. How are we doing with interrupts? Is the number going up? Is it going down? Are we burning those interrupts down to zero? That kind of thing is a great example of why stitching everything in a portfolio together into one sort of pane of glass that you can view is so incredibly useful if you're trying to manage at the portfolio level.
Sure. And when it's done in an elegant solution, something that, where you all focus explicitly on those things, I think it solves a lot of the custom work that organizations try to do. I know in a long ago previous life, I had an engagement where I was brought in to bring together the product management tool suite. I'm trying to remember, I think it wasn't Rational. Whatever it was at the point, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it was the product management tool. It was the incident management tool that customer service used. It was the code repository tool. It was release management and defect management. Because again, their goal was, we want to understand where everything is in the pipeline so we can make decisions and have rational conversations with customers. We don't want to just say, oh yeah, that enhancement you put in last year, we're getting to it at some point. Like we want to know, where it is, what's going on with it, and when we can expect it. And, you mentioned the ETLs, that was my solution, right? Like, let's create visibility, let's create shared fields, let's exchange statuses, let's use ETLs and cron jobs to do that. That was a very expensive body of work for that client. It was a lot of ugly architecture on my behalf, but it worked. It wasn't my be all end all. It was a one-off solution, right?
Exactly.
So like with you all having the ability to say, we're going to surface all of this data we're going to do it exceptionally well in a maintainable, scalable, secure way because that's all you do and that's how you make your money. You can't replace that.
Oh, absolutely. So in my previous company, I had about 400 employees. So not a huge company, but not a small company. I had 2 full-time system admins keeping track of like Jira licenses, and and we had some Monday, and we had some Miro boards and all sorts of things. Keeping track of those. I had 2 full-time data engineers who were extracting data from all of those systems into a pipeline. And then I had 1 full-time person compiling that into status updates that I would take to customers and to my board. And so not only did I have the cost of the license, I had 5 full-time people in a team of 400 just to get to an answer of what the hell's going on. It is really hard. And so it's exactly our goal is to take that and reduce that down to something that is either fully automated or requires, maybe 1 person in your company to manage. And that's everything we're about. And it's because I experienced a very personal pain because I had a breakdown in that ETL process where I couldn't see well. And because I couldn't see well, we had a late customer implementation for the first time in 16 years. And so I feel very personally the pain of both the expense of that, but then also how incredibly costly it can be if it's brittle and you get it wrong.
Sure. So with you, you mentioned kind of that support model. For you all, when somebody contracts with you and they bring in your solution, what does the implementation look like? Is it something that people can largely self-service? Do you have an implementation team? What about ongoing maintenance?
Yeah, so we have an implementation team that we work with and that we both retain, and then we have a whole group of consultants as well that we can leverage and utilize depending on the expertise needed in the particular customer. Then we have a software solution that could be used off the shelf. If you were a relatively straightforward company, for example, let's say you were implementing, scaled Agile for a team that was not trying to get off of some other system, you would likely need very minimal professional services from us. Conversely, if you're a team that has, let's say, 5 or 6 different project management point solutions and a lot of different, some teams using a fully well-defined, Agile release train, and some other team over here that's on Microsoft project doing waterfall, and you need someone to help you, orchestrate all of that. There can be a lot of professional services that are involved. Part of where I've been successful in my career always is understanding that every customer is unique and every customer has unique needs. And I do not believe in product flywheels. I don't believe that you just build a product and sell it over and over and over again to everyone. I believe very much that every engagement is about going in, understanding the customer, understanding exactly what the customer needs, and then doing that thing. And so where I think we sort of differentiate there is that in all of our engagements, there always ends up being some amount of very sort of tailored, bespoke solutioning that occurs to make sure that that customer's unique business process continues to function very smoothly. Because, above all else, if you're a company that's disciplined enough to implement scaled Agile, failure is not an option. You can't afford to try all this and have it just not work out. It's really important that you work with people who understand that incremental changes are the best in large organizations, and you know how to execute on those things diligently in a sequential manner.
Certainly. So it sounds like you've got a solid solution. It sounds like you've got a good implementation plan. For a lot of enterprises that might be listening to this right now, how have you addressed kind of the enterprise security issues? So when somebody comes in, every architect's going to want to do their own security analysis. They want all the proof and confidence that you're good. How have you addressed that to make sure that when you roll into a large bank or an insurance company or a government, that they can be confident that their information's secure and you're not going to get breached? Yeah.
So there's a couple of ways. Number one, we obviously have all the compliance certs that you need to have. So I said 2701 and SOC 2 Type 2 and GDPR. So we audit for all of those things with an audit firm, as you'd expect any SaaS firm to do. However, we also implemented DevStride through AWS. Like we're an AWS shop and AWS solution. We very intentionally and specifically, because again, our background was the largest insurers in the world, who obviously have
the most secure,
Yeah,
the
that's
most
right.
highly
Yeah.
regulated, the
Yeah.
deepest histories
Yeah.
of not getting things wrong.
Exactly. I'm not going to say tinfoil hats, but
Pretty close. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been in those too. I get it.
Yeah. There's a lot of security measures in place. And so we intentionally built all of the tooling in DevStride with the idea that we could empower our customers to launch DevStride inside of their own AWS instances when needed. And they can simply pull in the provisioning scripts from our repositories and launch them. So we actually offer a solution where our customers can fully host it in their own cloud while still getting the benefits of SaaS, because they can continue to pull down the updates from our repo. It's all still in the cloud. It's all AWS. It's just that it's not, instead of running on our instances, it's running on their instances. And then they can give us access into their instances to come in and help if they get in trouble.
So that's a 2023 version of on-prem.
Exactly.
It's not on my cloud. It's in your cloud.
It's in your cloud if you need it there.
It could actually be the same blade, but who are we to split hairs?
Right. Exactly.
Oh, I love it. So it's easy, it's secure, it's well thought out, it's got a creative twist. What's on the roadmap? What are you building next? If I walk to your booth right now, what are the exciting hooks that you're telling customers about at Summit Prague?
Yeah, so the first thing that we built out was really that work stream manager. Then we moved into sort of nested Kanban boards and how those two things interrelate. From there, we went and we built a really nice enterprise reporting engine. After that, we built portfolio level GANs that tie pieces together everywhere.
Phil, I'm sorry. So you mentioned several times the elegance of the reports. Just out of curiosity, is that something that customers are able to put in their team colors? I mean, can people like add their logo so that when they export it, they feel good about it? They can just give it to whomever?
Yeah, so one of the really powerful things we did with our reports is every single report that you run, spits out a visualization of some sort. Each visualization gets its own unique URL. If you want to publish, there's a button. You'll say publish this, and it makes it publishable. Now there's a unique URL that you can take and you can embed in any other tool, and that will obviously be served up from our servers, but surface in that tool if that tool is able to load a URL resource. Sure. And so that gets to what we're really excited about right now. What we're working on, our latest tooling is all around team collaboration. And so this really came to us because one of our companies was struggling with some of the PI planning activities, and really it was even so much about internal PI planning. We're not trying to compete with the PI plan product here at Scale Agile.
I heard that that's a pretty cool tool, that PI planning.
Yes, I've heard it's a cool tool as well. Yes,
somebody should buy that thing.
Yes, and I have visited with the team. They seem wonderful. So where we were running into trouble again. Remember that our core service demographic is enterprise for some reason that is then interfacing with their own enterprise customer. So it was the collaboration between the product company and the customer where we were seeing a lot of pain points. And so the most recent thing that we're working on, the new hotness for us, is a tool that we've built that then enables internal and external collaborators to come together and visit with each other, share assets, share resources. And then one of the things that you can do in those, they're called rooms, shared rooms, and they're ephemeral and they're shared. You can do things in there like you can import a tile, and the tile is a little visualization of a web resource. So you can, in real time, surface a Miro board, or surface a Google Sheet, or surface, in our case, a DevStride Gantt chart, or a shared Kanban board, or any of those things can be added to that room. And then we've even added features into that room. We partnered with Zoom. Zoom's actually an investor in our company. And so we actually have enterprise Zoom licenses where you can host Zooms without even needing Zoom licenses at all yourself. They're baked into our product, and do sort of those collaborative sessions back and forth, and record them and transcribe them and do all those things right there in the room. So that's the new hotness for us, is the collaboration tooling.
That's the first time I've ever heard of, kind of that embedded Zoom concept. I mean, I didn't even know they did that. That's a really cool thing to learn about.
Yeah.
So it sounds really cool that you can basically take through that embedded URL that same data, share it in multiple different locations with multiple different looks, feels, presentations, and it's all in sync, right?
All
Because
in sync.
because that URL is pulling the data from the source of record, and we're presenting it where we need to present it, how it needs to look. But across all those different areas where we may be presenting it, it's current.
That's exactly right.
That's really cool.
So one of, I think, the bane of most PMO offices, and certainly executives reporting to their own board, is that what they get from the PMO office tends to be a screenshot of some report that was true in the past. And that's exactly right. Everything that we do in the system is a live view into real-time data, because I think it's so critical. And one of the things that we're really working toward, and this is a little bit of future state for us, but if you're listening and you're interested in this concept, please reach out, talk to us. I actually take issue, somewhat significant issue, with the idea that all of our planning at the moment is based on the idea of a retrospective. Inherent in the word retrospective is I am looking backward.
Yeah.
And we are very much focused on trying to move companies in the direction of looking forward and predicting what's going to happen based upon trend data. And of course, we're not saying there's never a time to stop and reflect. Of course, there is. A retrospective matters. But instead of mostly planning from a retrospective, we want to see people mostly planning from real-time data tied to alarms. So that's what's coming next for us, is alarm and threshold systems that say there's an anti-pattern emerging. The signal's getting stronger. Do something, and do something now.
Which is a great application for certain forms of AI, right? Like,
Absolutely.
To your point, I don't want to make decisions based on solely what has happened in the past. I want to make decisions based on what the trend data is telling me could happen in the future and what's most likely.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about a release chain with, say, 500 people in it, the cost of running that for one PI is, tens of millions of dollars, if not $100 million, to run that one team for that length of time. If you take, 6, 8, 9 weeks in order to sit down and evaluate, is what we're doing working, and determine that you didn't, you just wasted an absolute ton of money and time. And if you were me in my previous life, where I have customer commitments I have to hit, that time might actually carry massive punitive damages as well. So the value of getting people to real-time action and sort of a predictive analysis of what's about to happen, what do we see occurring based upon the trend data, I think that changes the game for everyone here. And I know everyone's thinking about how to get there. And what we're really focused on is building the tooling that actually gets you there.
That's great, Phil. So we've covered a lot of really good stuff here. Where can people go to learn more? How can they get a demo? Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is www.devstride, that's devstride.com. And you can also always reach out at info@devstride.com.
That's great info. So devstride.com, info@devstride.com. Find you on the LinkedIn, all the places.
That's exactly right. And listen, when we hear from customers, as much as anything, we want to learn. We really don't engage with the purpose of selling an existing solution. We think of our existing solution as an accelerator to deliver to that customer what that customer needs.
Solve their problems.
Solve their problem.
I like it, Phil. Thank you for making the time, man. Thank you for walking over here, leaving your booth for a moment, and having a good chat. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks so much for the interview. It's been great.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. The entire team at Scaled Agile is focused on helping you be better at work so that you can help your enterprise be more successful in the new age of business. If there's anything else we can do to help, if there are any other assets you'd like to see, content, podcast guests, just let us know. Also, please check out Safe Studio, where you'll find tools, toolkits, resources, videos, and so much more to help you be successful in the world of work. As always, if you appreciate this content, the greatest compliment you can give us is a referral to a friend or colleague. And if you feel so inclined, we do always appreciate those likes, comments, subscribes, and reviews on your podcast platform of choice. My name is Adam Mattis. Until next time, as they say, stay safe.